President Trump has issued a strong directive to the BRICS nations, demanding firm commitments to prevent the emergence of any alternative currency that could challenge the dominance of the US dollar. He reaffirmed his commitment to maintaining the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency and cautioned that severe economic sanctions, including 100% tariffs, would be imposed on any country attempting to undermine its status. In a pointed statement late last year, Trump declared that BRICS had no chance of displacing the US dollar in global trade or any other arena, warning that nations making such attempts would face heavy tariffs and severed economic ties with the US. Earlier this year, he reiterated his stance on social media, making it clear that efforts by BRICS nations to weaken the dollar would not be tolerated. He insisted on a binding commitment that these nations would neither create nor support any alternative currency that could threaten the US dollar's supremacy, warning that failure to comply would result in 100% tariffs and complete exclusion from the US market. However, despite Trump's firm warning, Brazil's leadership of BRICS is advancing plans to enhance cross-border payments using local currencies, a strategy that could gradually lessen the group's dependence on the US dollar. The initiative focuses on modernizing international transactions through reforms that incorporate technologies like blockchain and improved payment system linkages. These efforts aim to reduce transaction costs and streamline global trade, making economic exchanges more efficient. Brazil is leveraging its successful domestic instant payment system, PIX, which has significantly overtaken traditional cash, credit, and debit transactions since its launch in late 2020. Additionally, Brazil's local currency payment framework, SML, which facilitates direct settlements in Brazilian reais through agreements with Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, is already operational. While current SML transactions require at least 3 business days for settlement, there is optimism that integrating instant payment technology could enhance security, speed, and cost-effectiveness. BRICS representatives are scheduled to meet in South Africa later this month during the G20 meetings, where Brazil is expected to present its proposals for the July BRICS summit. As the bloc continues to expand with the recent inclusion of Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, the push for local currency payments is seen as part of a broader effort to promote financial independence and resilience among emerging economies. The US dollar's rise to prominence has been a deliberate and historic process, shaped by significant global events, economic policies, and geopolitical shifts. Its status as the world's leading reserve currency can be traced back to the aftermath of World War II when nations sought stability and economic reconstruction. In 1944, representatives of allied nations convened at the Bretton Woods Conference to establish a new global monetary system. The US dollar was designated as the central currency, with other currencies pegged to it, and its value was tied to gold at a fixed rate. This framework provided stability for global trade and cemented the United States' economic and political leadership. During this period, the dollar was more than just a medium of exchange. It represented economic growth, stability, and a shared commitment to rebuilding a war-torn world. For decades, the Bretton Woods system underpinned international trade, and as global commerce expanded, reliance on the US dollar increased. The strength of the American economy, backed by industrial power and sound fiscal policies, bolstered confidence in the currency. The US dollar became the undisputed leader in global finance, facilitating capital flows and trade across continents. However, by the late 1960s, growing fiscal imbalances and inflationary pressures began to strain the fixed exchange rate system. In 1971, President Nixon suspended the dollar's convertibility into gold, an event known as the Nixon shock, which effectively ended the Bretton Woods system and led to floating exchange rates. Despite the uncertainty this created, the US dollar maintained its dominance, supported by the resilience of the American economy. The 1970s also saw the establishment of the petrodollar system, as major oil-producing nations agreed to price oil exclusively in US dollars. This move reinforced the dollar's role in global trade by ensuring continued demand for the currency, regardless of economic fluctuations. Over time, the dollar's position has been further strengthened by deep financial markets, political stability, and international institutions that reinforce its global influence. Trump's emphatic warning appears to reflect growing concerns in the U.S. over the increasing momentum behind de-dollarization initiatives. A widespread move away from the dollar could diminish its international standing and destabilize the U.S. economy. If major economies successfully transition to alternative currencies, or establish a viable competitor to the dollar, the U.S. could face serious repercussions, including lower demand for its treasury bonds, higher borrowing costs, and reduced geopolitical leverage. A rapid shift from the dollar could signify a major transformation in the global financial system, weakening America's economic influence on the world stage. The potential consequences of such a change would be significant for global trade, finance, and diplomacy, making it a key issue for economists and policymakers. In this video, we will examine the latest developments surrounding Trump's warning to BRICS nations. We will also assess the progress BRICS countries have made toward reducing their reliance on the US dollar. To begin, let's analyze the extent of de-dollarization currently underway. BRICS members have been steadily increasing the use of their national currencies in trade to reduce their dependence on the US dollar. This shift toward greater financial independence is driven by both political and economic considerations. One of the major steps in this direction came with the China-Brazil agreement in early 2023. As the two largest economies in the BRICS bloc, China and Brazil agreed to conduct bilateral trade using their own currencies, the Chinese yuan, CNY, and the Brazilian real, BRL. This measure eliminates the necessity of using the US dollar as an intermediary, improving trade efficiency and reducing exchange rate volatility for businesses in both countries. Data from 2022 indicates that trade between China and Brazil amounted to approximately $150 billion, with China serving as Brazil's largest trade partner. By shifting to local currencies, both nations aim to simplify transactions, cut conversion costs, and increase financial independence. Similarly, Iran and Russia have taken significant steps toward integrating their financial systems to facilitate trade and bypass Western sanctions. Their collaboration includes linking national payment networks and allowing reciprocal acceptance of bank cards, strengthening economic cooperation between the two nations. In early 2023, Iran and Russia aligned their banking systems, giving Iranian banks access to Russian financial institutions and more than 100 banks across 13 additional countries through Russia's alternative to SWIFT, the System for Transfer of Financial Messages, SPFS. This integration enables the issuance of letters of credit, transfers, and guarantees without relying on the SWIFT system, mitigating the impact of Western sanctions. On July 6, 2024, Iran's central bank announced the connection of its Shahtab interbank network with Russia's Mir payment system. This advancement allows Russian Mir cards to be used in Iran, facilitating transactions for Russian tourists and businesses operating in the country. The objective of this initiative is to decrease reliance on Western financial institutions and bolster bilateral trade. By November 2024, Iran and Russia expanded their financial integration further by allowing Iranian bank cards to be used in Russia, easing payment processes and cash withdrawals for Iranian citizens abroad, thereby reinforcing economic ties. India and Russia have also adopted local currency transactions, particularly in the energy sector. Following the imposition of Western sanctions on Russia in 2022, both countries increased the use of the Indian rupee and the Russian ruble in their trade exchanges. By 2023, Russia had become India's top crude oil supplier, with a substantial portion of these purchases settled in Indian rupees. This arrangement enabled nations to bypass dollar-dependent payment networks, insulating them from external financial pressures. South Africa, despite having the smallest economy among BRICS members, has also shown a preference for settling an increasing number of transactions in the Chinese yuan. China remains South Africa's top trading partner, with bilateral trade surpassing $50 billion in 2023. That same year, South Africa formalized agreements to pay for selected imports, particularly machinery and electronics, using yuan, reducing its reliance on the US dollar and enhancing the liquidity of the yuan within African markets. BRICS Pay is a decentralized financial transaction system developed by the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, to facilitate seamless cross-border payments in local currencies. The platform was designed to reduce reliance on Western-controlled financial networks like SWIFT, enhancing the economic independence of its member states. Initially introduced in 2018 by the BRICS Business Council, BRICS Pay integrates existing national payment frameworks, such as Russia's Mir network and India's Unified Payments Interface, to streamline international transactions among participating countries. It allows users to make and receive payments in their native currencies, reducing the complexities of currency exchange and minimizing transaction costs. Built on advanced blockchain technology, BRICS Pay ensures secure, transparent, and efficient financial exchanges across its member states. Its structure blends centralized systems for domestic operations with decentralized mechanisms for cross-border transactions, maintaining regulatory compliance while enabling technological flexibility. National payment infrastructures such as Russia's Mir, India's UPI, and China's UnionPay are incorporated for secure domestic transactions, while internationally, blockchain-based decentralized networks enable direct peer-to-peer payments. This eliminates intermediaries and enables real-time settlements. The use of distributed ledger technology guarantees that transaction records remain unalterable and allows smart contracts to automate currency conversions and regulatory compliance. BRICS Pay is designed with a high-performance architecture that allows for rapid implementation, making it adaptable to various regulatory and technological conditions across its member states. Its scalability ensures that it can accommodate rising transaction volumes and integrate new participants without compromising efficiency. A key feature of the system is its interoperability, which facilitates seamless connectivity between different national payment infrastructures and ensures smooth cross-border transactions. Furthermore, the decentralized framework optimizes liquidity management by providing instant settlements in local currencies. These attributes position BRICS Pay as a credible alternative to traditional financial networks. By encouraging the use of local currencies for global trade, BRICS Pay seeks to reduce the US dollar's dominance in international transactions and foster a more multipolar financial system. The platform empowers member nations with greater control over their financial transactions, reducing their exposure to external financial pressures and potential economic sanctions. By linking national payment infrastructures, BRICS Pay is set to enhance cross-border transactions, lower operational costs, and improve the overall efficiency of financial exchanges among participating countries. In October 2024, at the 16th BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia, BRICS Pay was formally introduced as a blockchain-based cross-border payment system. Demonstrations showcased its capabilities, highlighting its potential as a viable alternative to conventional financial networks. The BRICS nations collectively aim to strengthen their financial security and minimize risks associated with currency fluctuations and geopolitical instability. As part of this strategy, the bloc has aggressively expanded its gold reserves. By the end of the second quarter of 2024, BRICS members had accumulated approximately 6,200 metric tons of gold, representing 21.4% of global reserves. Leading this effort is Russia, with holdings of 2,340 tons, accounting for 8.1% of global reserves, followed by China, which possesses 2,260 tons or 7.8% of global holdings. Notably, Brazil has nearly tripled its gold reserves between 2018 and 2024, signaling a deliberate strategy to reinforce its economic defenses. This accumulation of gold underscores the broader objective within BRICS to lessen dependency on the US dollar and fortify financial autonomy. The buildup of substantial gold reserves serves multiple strategic purposes for the member states. By diversifying their financial assets, these nations shield themselves from economic sanctions and gain greater flexibility in setting independent monetary policies. Gold acts as a safeguard against external financial risks, ensuring BRICS economies are better prepared to handle economic downturns and global crises. This initiative is not just about economic security, it also represents a strategic move toward establishing a more decentralized global financial system. Stockpiling gold supports a broader effort to build independent financial frameworks that function beyond the control of Western financial institutions. The coordinated efforts in gold accumulation, combined with the rollout of BRICS Pay, demonstrate the bloc's commitment to developing a self-sufficient and resilient financial ecosystem. Together, these measures aim to establish a robust financial structure that can withstand market volatility while reducing reliance on conventional financial channels, such as the US dollar and Western-controlled institutions. By synchronizing their efforts in strengthening gold reserves and advancing decentralized financial networks, BRICS nations are laying the groundwork for a financial order that prioritizes stability, independence, and equitable global economic participation. The shift away from the dollar, commonly referred to as de-dollarization, is being driven by several crucial factors. At its core, this movement is motivated by the need to safeguard economic sovereignty and financial stability. The US dollar's dominance grants the United States significant control over the global economy, and its monetary policies can create economic volatility in other nations. By reducing their reliance on the dollar, countries seek to regain greater control over their financial policies and insulate themselves from external economic shocks. Additionally, dependence on the US dollar increases vulnerability to American sanctions, which can restrict access to international financial systems. Nations such as Russia and China have actively sought alternatives to maintain financial independence and mitigate the impact of these restrictions. Another key factor driving de-dollarization is the diversification of national reserves. Historically, central banks worldwide have held substantial portions of their reserves in US dollars, but there is now a growing trend toward diversifying into multiple currencies and gold. This shift helps minimize risk exposure and reduces the dollar's global influence. Geopolitical and strategic considerations also play a significant role. Countries like China and Russia are actively working to counterbalance US financial dominance by promoting the international use of their respective currencies. This aligns with their broader vision of creating a more balanced global financial order. Moreover, regional economic agreements are increasingly structured around local currency transactions, further reducing dependence on the dollar. For instance, the trade agreement between China and Brazil to conduct transactions in their national currencies simplifies cross-border commerce, reducing conversion costs and eliminating reliance on the US dollar. Finally, de-dollarization reflects the evolving global economic landscape. As emerging markets expand and solidify their roles in international trade, they naturally gravitate toward using their own currencies to reflect their growing influence and strengthen their financial networks. These elements highlight the varied and strategic motivations behind the global shift toward de-dollarization. Trump has urged BRICS nations to uphold the dominance of the US dollar, threatening them with severe tariffs if they attempt otherwise. Posting on his Truth Social account on Saturday, Trump asserted that any efforts by BRICS countries to undermine the dollar would not be tolerated. He demanded an explicit commitment from these nations, ensuring they would not introduce or support a competing currency that could challenge the dollar's position. Should they fail to comply, they would face 100% tariffs and complete exclusion from the expansive U.S. market. Throughout his campaign, Trump has repeatedly emphasized his determination to make it economically prohibitive for any nation to move away from the U.S. dollar. His latest remarks have heightened tensions as the countdown to his January inauguration continues. His warnings align with his historical approach of leveraging tariffs to advance his economic objectives. Reports suggest that his inner circle is currently assessing various strategies to penalize nations conducting bilateral trade outside of the dollar system. Potential measures under consideration include limiting exports, branding such nations as currency manipulators, and imposing additional trade tariffs. These proposals reflect Trump's consistent efforts to safeguard the dollar's supremacy. In a discussion held in March, Trump reiterated that allowing other countries to abandon the dollar would deal a significant blow to the U.S. economy. The debate surrounding de-dollarization intensified following the 2023 BRICS summit, where member nations deliberated on reducing their dependence on the dollar. The idea of establishing alternative currencies gained traction in 2022, when U.S.-led sanctions against Russia sparked widespread dissatisfaction with the dollar's dominance in global finance. Trump's campaign has highlighted the urgency of confronting these trends, signaling a firm strategy to resist any economic alliances seeking to diminish the dollar's influence. Trump's statements have already unsettled international financial markets, particularly following his announcement of broader tariffs on key trading partners. In past statements, he pledged to impose a 10% tariff on Chinese imports and a 25% duty on goods from Mexico and Canada, unless their governments took more stringent measures to combat drug trafficking and illegal immigration. In a recent development, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with Trump to discuss trade relations and border security in light of the looming tariff threats, suggesting that efforts toward diplomatic reconciliation might be underway. However, Trump's firm stance underscores his willingness to utilize economic measures to further both his domestic and international policy goals. Trump has reaffirmed that BRICS nations stand no chance of replacing the U.S. dollar in global trade, warning that any country attempting such a move would be entirely severed from the American economy. As he prepares to assume office, his aggressive economic policies appear poised to be a defining aspect of his second term, carrying far-reaching consequences for international trade and diplomatic relations. The decision by BRICS nations to establish a new payment system and explore the possibility of an alternative currency has sent shockwaves through Western financial institutions. These initiatives collectively represent a concerted effort to challenge the U.S. dollar's role as the world's primary reserve currency. By constructing an independent financial infrastructure and reducing reliance on dollar-based trade and reserves, BRICS is actively reshaping the global economic framework into a more multipolar system. This strategic realignment has particularly unsettled the United States, as the dollar's status as a reserve currency has historically provided the U.S. economy with unique advantages, including lower borrowing costs and considerable leverage in global financial markets. Under the Trump administration, these developments have raised concerns about the potential erosion of America's economic influence. Trump has openly expressed concern that BRICS's coordinated actions threaten the very foundation of U.S. financial dominance, putting at risk the privileged status the nation has long enjoyed. In response, he has escalated his rhetoric against nations in the Global South, cautioning them about the potential risks associated with aligning themselves with BRICS. His administration has also emphasized the potential consequences of opposing dollar hegemony, including economic disengagement from the United States. Despite these warnings, many countries view the prospect of a more balanced and independent financial system as a compelling alternative. This marks a pivotal moment in the realignment of global economic power. The BRICS initiative is not merely a challenge to the dominance of the dollar, it is also a broader assertion of sovereignty and a call for a more equitable distribution of financial influence in the 21st century. That brings us to the end of this video. We genuinely appreciate your time and support. If this content resonated with you or provided valuable insight, we would greatly appreciate it if you could show your support by liking this video and subscribing to stay connected with our community. Your engagement means a lot to us.